Yeah, I think it puts on full display the extent to which he and the vast majority of Republicans aren't actually in this for legitimate reasons. They're just doing it to stoke panic about trans people because they recognize that as a culture war issue, it benefits them. Look, going back to Nancy Mace, she explains on a weekly basis how she was the victim of sexual assault, including in this very previous segment with you, and yet and to that point, I feel for her, and I think that's absolutely also awful. But she also breathlessly supports somebody like Donald Trump, who is an adjudicated rapist and who was credibly accused of sexual assault by 26 different women.
In today's video, Tyler Cohen absolutely destroys Piers Morgan and his MAGA panel in a heated debate on Trump, trans issues, and the war in Ukraine. Yeah, it's a lot. And honestly, Brian was not holding back. You'll see him push back hard on Piers' usual MAGA spin, calling out the hypocrisy and deflection with straight up facts. If you've ever wanted to see someone challenge Piers on his own show, this one's definitely for you. So let's dive in and watch how Tyler Cohen shuts down Piers Morgan in this heated debate.
So the cognitive dissonance at play here, first of all, is incredible. But second of all, with regard to Nancy Mace, with regard to Donald Trump, we know why they're doing this. Nancy Mace is not afraid of Sarah McBride chasing her into the bathroom. She's not. She wants to fundraise off this. She wants to be social media famous. She wants to be. Nancy Mace has more ambition to be famous online than every single member of
doesn't mean
Jersey
she's
Shore
wrong. Doesn't mean she's wrong.
It means that she's doing this to help herself, and she's not actually concerned about this issue.
Yeah, but Brian, come on, look. Hang on, Brian. A politician doing something to help themselves. If that was a criteria for why we shouldn't listen to them, we'd never have anybody to interview, right? So of course,
I get it, but that doesn't mean we can't call. That doesn't mean we can't call them out.
No, it doesn't mean I can't call you out on the fact that she.
Self-concerned.
I don't think it makes her wrong. So it may be she has other vested interests, but it doesn't necessarily make her wrong.
If she was actually looking for a legitimate way forward, she would do exactly what Geraldo did, which is instead of beating the drum about this and vilifying Sarah McBride to the ends of the earth, this woman who has, by the way, operated with nothing other than class and grace since the moment she was elected to her position, she would have actually just sought a solution. But nowhere in the days and weeks of her, like doing the fainting couch spell, has she brought forward any single indication that she's willing to look for a solution. She hasn't said, let's get a different balance. She hasn't said that she's willing.
She has the solution. You ban it. I mean, just bang. That's it.
Calling for this one woman to not be able to use bathrooms is not the same as her saying.
It would be any. It's not one woman. It would be any transgender people who are in Congress.
This
would
is an
be the same
attack.
thing.
This is an attack. Piers, this is an attack on Sarah McBride. We all know why she's doing this. Don't play dumb here. We know that this is because she.
But I don't think transgender women should be in women's spaces. So I agree with her.
She doesn't want to shower with a man while she's at work in the locker room.
I don't think Sarah McBride is looking to shower next to Nancy Mace. And by the way, if any of these people were actually concerned, then they would all be beating their chests about what Donald Trump has done. But nobody's concerned about it. Donald Trump is, as far as the courts go, as far as these accusations of sexual assault go, he is 10 to the nth degree more dangerous than anybody like Sarah McBride. But of course, nobody talks about him because it's politically convenient because he's part of their political party.
Brian hit the nail on the head by pointing out the hypocrisy of Republicans weaponizing trans issues for political gain. Let's be real. If they actually cared about women's safety, they wouldn't be lining up behind Donald Trump, a man literally found liable for sexual abuse in court. Yet somehow they're obsessively focused on where trans people go to the bathroom? Come on. And Piers trying to act like this isn't a targeted attack on Sarah McBride? Please. We all know what's happening. Republicans love a culture war when it distracts from the fact that they have no solutions for real issues. And while they're making noise about locker rooms, they're dead silent on Trump's long list of sexual misconduct allegations. You can't claim to care about protecting women while cheering on a guy with over 24 credible accusations.
Piers, do you not see any irony in, after years and years and years of conservatives and right-wingers and you coming forward and saying that cancel culture is bad, we hate cancel culture, this is the reason that the left is losing, and now you're calling for the View to be canceled?
I'm ahead of you. My final line says, given the enthusiasm with which the View hosts, all of them, tried so hard to cancel Donald Trump, they should maybe take their own lesson and be cancelled, because it's what they would want. Because they're now the ones, they said Trump was out of step with the American people. They said he was just a little representative of a small number of MAGA people. No, actually, that's not the case. He's had a thumping win across the board. Therefore, the View hosts are out of step with the American people. Therefore, they should be cancelled. And I don't mean get rid of the show. I mean, get rid of them and replace them with a more balanced team. Maybe you have a few men as well. Me and Geraldo could pop in there.
Piers, Trump won his election by a 1.5% popular vote margin in the country. Joe Biden won that by 3 times that much in 2020. The notion that this is some massive repudiation of the Democratic Party and that we have to burn the whole thing down up from the ashes rise some physics
you're in denial.
Is a joke.
Brian. Look,
I'm not.
to make your day even worse, by the way, I know you do a bit of work for MSNBC.
Listen, let me finish talking.
Elon Musk is about to buy you.
I'm not in denial about the fact that Democrats have lost, and in fact, I, more than anybody online, I'm sure on the left, has been open to this idea of introspection. What Democrats can do moving forward. But the notion that all of a sudden the Democratic Party is irrelevant when a couple million more people for the second time in this century voted for Republicans in the popular vote over the Democrats.
Come on, Brian. If I said to you 2 years ago, Donald Trump will win the popular vote and the Electoral College and the Senate and the House and the White House, you'd have thought I was stark raving bonkers. You'd have bet your house, you'd have bet your family, you'd have bet every penny you own that could never happen. You've been all caught napping at the wheel, right? You fell asleep at the wheel and you let him drive by and take the whole shebang. I think Democrats should take a long, hard look in the mirror and admit you've just been completely pounded into total, shameful, humiliating oblivion, and you've got to start again, and you've got to find politicians that actually resonate with the American people. And it's not the current shower you've got. Sorry.
So, Piers, in 2020, would you have said the same thing about the Republican Party that lost by a 4.5% margin nationally?
No.
Well, there you go. That's your comment.
No, because I felt the 2020. No, I'll tell you why, since you've asked. Because I felt the 2020 election was effectively a referendum on a once-in-a-lifetime pandemic, which affected absolutely everything. If that election had taken place before the pandemic in 2020, say in February, Trump would have won, I think, by a landslide.
Now, Piers has spent years whining about cancel culture, that the left is too sensitive, too quick to cancel, and now suddenly he's out here calling for the View hosts to be replaced because they dared to call out Trump. That's not irony, that's hypocrisy in 4K. Brian's spot on. This isn't about principle, it's about power. Piers doesn't actually care about cancel culture unless it's convenient for his side. And let's not ignore the fact here. Trump didn't win in 2020. He lost the popular vote again, and by a wider margin than in 2016. Biden beat him by over 7 million votes. The GOP's little midterm win doesn't erase that reality. Also, the idea that Democrats are in total oblivion just because they didn't sweep one cycle is nonsense. In 2022, Dems held the Senate, and in 2023, they outperformed expectations again in several key states. The GOP is clinging to a House majority by a thread, and the only reason they're even competitive is because of gerrymandering and voter suppression tactics. So, no, Piers, one midterm doesn't mean the country wants MAGA back. It just means the fight's not over, and people like Brian are right to keep pushing back against the gaslighting.
These two wars, Trump says he can fix them. They're very complicated, both of them, in terms of not just what's happened in the last year or two, but also historically, the history of these conflicts. Do you think he can pull off peace?
I think that Donald Trump has shown through his own rhetoric and even his cabinet appointments, including somebody like Tulsi Gabbard as DNI, I think he's shown whose side he's on. I mean, the fact that Kari Lake can't even come forward and say that a warmongering totalitarian dictator seeking to take the territory of a sovereign country is bad, and just waving her hands around about money, and that's more important than protecting the sovereignty of a free country. Especially one, by the way, who is aligned with China, and they've got territorial ambitions as well, including Taiwan, and we have a vested interest in terms of our economy of having Taiwan be a free state. The fact that all of these people can't take a clear-eyed view of this because they're so aligned with, I don't know whether it's Putin and that axis of evil, whether it's just focusing on making the U.S. more like the illiberal state that Russia is. I'm not sure which one it is. I get why they see a lot of Putin in Donald Trump, and so they're putting on full display which side they're on. So do I think that they're going to seek peace for in deference to democracy in the world? No, I think that Donald Trump has already shown which side.
That's where liberals go wrong when they compare Putin to Trump. It's like with all that Nazi stuff. It was so.
Yeah.
But I didn't call him a Nazi.
It irks me because I
didn't call him a Nazi. I said
no, you didn't.
There are authoritarian leanings between Putin and Trump.
There's no comparison.
Geraldo, Donald Trump tried to subvert the election result. He tried to subvert a free and fair election, incited an insurrection on January 6th. Don't memory hold this.
And he was impeached for it. He was impeached for it. That's the way we judge.
You know that impeachment. You know that an impeachment process counts for nothing when you have an entire Congress.
This whole debate between Brian Tyler Cohen and Piers Morgan shows just how disconnected the MAGA world is from reality, especially when it comes to Ukraine. Piers parrots Trump's fantasy that he could solve the war on day one. But here's the thing, Trump's already back in office and we're months into his second term. Where's the peace plan? Brian Tyler Cohen absolutely nailed it. Trump doesn't stand for democracy here or abroad. This is the same guy who was impeached for trying to blackmail Ukraine for dirt on Biden and now in office again. He's showing that same disdain of democratic norms. He's emboldening Putin, not challenging him. From trans rights to cancel culture to foreign policy, Brian Tyler Cohen held his ground and peeled back the layers of MAGA's hollow talking points. Piers and his panel, as usual, deflected and defended the indefensible. But Brian brought the receipts, calling out the double standards, the dangerous rhetoric, and the complete detachment from reality. Pause. Are you getting tired of getting half the story from biased news sources? One outlet says one thing and another says the complete opposite. How are you supposed to know what's actually true? That's where ground news comes in. It lets you compare how different media outlets, left, right, and center are covering the same story. So you can see the full picture instead of just the echo chamber. And here's the best part. Click the link in the description and get 40% off the Vantage tier, which gives you even deeper insights into media bias and political trends. Stay informed, think for yourself, and check out ground news in the description down below.